Hey guys, Polygon Don here, and today I want to show you some underrated classics on the PS3. It's a few games in my collection that I believe didn't get nearly enough time in the spotlight that they deserved. Let's take a look. Alright guys, first up we got Starhawk, which is a third-person shooter with tower defense and aerial combat thrown in too. It's the successor to Warhawk and the only one out of the two to feature a single-player campaign. Starhawk also differed with its new build and battle system, and with it you can build watchtowers to snipe from, defensive walls, supply bunkers for ammo drops, outposts to recruit allies, turrets to shoot anything that moves, and laser beams to do the same but quicker, as well as jetpacks, hoverbikes, gun-wielding 4x4s, six-wheeled tanks, a vehicle repair arm to fix you up, and the main attraction, the Hawk. A gun-toting mech one moment and a spaceship equipped with a deadly array of onboard weapons the next. And the best thing about the building mechanic is that there's no real wait for anything to arrive once you select it from the construction wheel. Building starts almost immediately and takes a matter of seconds to complete, and once completed your shiny new turret or vehicle arrives immediately and is ready for use. This definitely makes the gameplay feel snappier and more dynamic, and the same can be said of operating the Warhawk. The press of a single button changes the mech spaceship hybrid between states and feels very satisfying to do so. The environmental destruction reminds me a lot of Red Faction, and some of the character designs and futuristic western aesthetic definitely evoke some strong Borderlands vibes for me. The game was clearly geared towards its online mode, and as a result the campaign feels like it's just going through the motions to ready you up for multiplayer. As for the story, unfortunately it's just kind of forgettable, to be honest. The bare minimum to create a bit of drive and direction for the next mission, and that's about it. That being said, the gameplay is solid. It looks, plays and feels great. I think it's one of the better looking games to play on the system. And the art direction is cool too. It has a very bright colour palette on the whole, with most planets' washed out tones nicely broken up by the splashes of neon blue that the majority of the enemy character designs have. This not only looks pretty, but makes it a lot easier to spot them against the alien worlds you battle on. In space, the vast blackness is broken up by the electric pastel clouds of nearby star clusters and peppered with the constant whizzing of lasers and homing missiles from the mission you're currently engaged in. It really is easy on the eye, this one, and the arcadey gameplay is top notch. However, with the campaign at around 5 to 6 hours and the online multiplayer servers all lost to time, there isn't really a lot of game to be had here in all truthfulness, and probably why I regularly see it listed on eBay for under £5. But the game that is there really is a lot of fun and totally worth picking up and checking out.
What's his name? Whatever. Granny's trying to explain, so knock it off! Ow! Oh my gosh!
Okay guys, and next up we've got the Puppeteer, which came out very late in the PS3's life cycle, releasing only a couple of months before the launch of the PS4 in 2013. This very unique looking game's art style reminds me a lot of Media Molecule's Tearaway. In its charm and craft-like approach, it doesn't quite match its inventiveness though. The stages of the game are represented via literal theatre stages, complete with scene-ending curtains and spotlights, and at times veers towards the Tim Burton levels of childlike creepiness too, which is cool, I did like that. But I think because of this hyper-stylised aesthetic, it will stand the test of time a lot better and will definitely be a sought-after game in years to come. The voice acting is incredible and the game can be genuinely funny at times, but the cutscenes do tend to outstay their welcome and drag on for a little more than is necessary. Gameplay is essentially a side-scrolling platformer with abilities unlocked via progression through the game. By the end of the game, you'll pretty much be using every button on the controller to prompt Kutaro into using his many new powers in order to defeat the sometimes tricky boss encounters. I say sometimes, as on the whole I found this game to be quite easy. Not to say that I didn't really enjoy it, because I did. This is what I'd call the perfect hangover game, or one of those relaxing Sunday afternoon games. Basically this isn't going to test your patience or wits, but does satisfy on the gameplay level and throws in the odd chuckle here and there. You play as a living puppet Kutaro who has his head taken off and eaten by the game's villain, the Moon Bear Pig. In order to exact revenge, Kutaro must find enough moon shards and defeat 12 of the Moon Bear Pig's generals before he is strong enough to face him. And Kutaro does this with his trusty magical scissors, allowing him to travel through the air, providing his scissors have something to cut through and the ability to interchange different heads. These act as lives, and if you take damage, your head will roll off your shoulders and you have a short window of opportunity to run and get it back. If you don't, it's lost and you move on to your next head should you have another one equipped. You can switch between the different heads you have collected, and they each come with a distinctive dance when holding the down button on the D-pad. If done in a specific place during a level, it can unlock bonus stages, and if done during a boss fight, can significantly reduce the fight's overall difficulty. Having the right head when you need it is what's key. Another interesting mechanic is that you don't just control the main character. Throughout the game you are accompanied by a companion, a floating cat at first and then a sun goddess. And while the left stick controls the movement of Kuturo, the right stick controls your companion, and it's with them that you can explore and interact with the environment to discover secrets, treasures and the lost children's souls. It adds a little more to do to each of the short-lived stages and reminds me a lot of a similar mechanic in Child of Light. There are lots of unlockables and collectibles to discover, the main ones being the numerous heads for Kuturo and freeing the souls of the lost children, and there's very little chance you'll 100% it on your first playthrough, so it does give you some replayability. The negatives would be the long cutscenes and quick time events during every boss fight, but other than that, this was a really pleasant surprise and one definitely worth playing if you haven't already.
I saw my death in my dreams, many times.
Magic to Werewolf Leader. Bogies are confirmed hostile on a direct course to Miami. You are cleared to engage and destroy.
A nightmare that I'll never forget.
Okay, and the third game on the list is Ace Combat Assault Horizon. A slight departure from the mainline numbered series, this spin-off is set in the real world for a start and features a new mechanic called DFM, or Dogfight Mode. And once you're close enough to an enemy, a green ring appears around their aircraft, and by pressing L2 and R2 simultaneously, you enter what is essentially a cinematic on-rail shooter. Maintaining a close distance whilst keeping the target plane within the green circle will eventually turn it red, allowing your missiles to reload quicker and have a greater chance of hitting their target. Quite a few die-hard fans of the numbered series, the latest being Ace Combat 7, hated this when it launched back in 2011, primarily due to this new mechanic, and I do get that. As a fan of Ace Combat 7 myself, this does feel very different, and I suppose it's telling that the devs or the publisher didn't want to give it a number of its own. But if you can look past that, or if you're completely new to the series, what you'll find here is an incredibly good looking arcade flight sim that doesn't hold back on ensuring every mission is as epic as the last, even at the cost of what made the franchise a success in the first place. And it's not just fighter jets you'll be piloting either. You'll get control of stealth bombers, Apache helicopters, and even the machine guns mounted on the side doors of Blackhawks. Actually, it's the helicopter missions that were some of the more standout moments for me, as it felt more like you were controlling an indestructible mech than the delicate and vulnerable aircraft every other game makes you believe. Is it realistic? No, especially when you can belly roll like a performing SEAL. Is it fun and should you play it? Yes, and definitely. It feels and looks like a blockbuster action movie. The production value is brilliant, and the little touches like debris and oil spilling from an aircraft you've just punctured mid-flight, or a pilot ejecting before his plane explodes, all adds to this highly polished and competent game. I do need to mention that it can get repetitive, as it essentially presents nearly all missions with wave-based enemy encounters, and this can feel a little taxing towards the end. Maybe a bit more variation between the fighter jet missions would have helped, but that's my only real gripe with it. After hearing all the negative noise out there about this game, I really wasn't expecting much going in, but I thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. Especially after picking it up for about £3 at a charity shop, it was a great addition to the collection that didn't hurt the wallet at all. It's definitely worth picking up.
With me, you always know right where I am. Behind the wheel.
Alright guys, the next one's Wheelman. Outrageous title aside, I don't even know where to start with this one. I almost didn't include it as it does look like pure shite. But what it lacks in beauty, it more than makes up for in its ridiculously fun and stupid gameplay. In it you play as Vin Diesel. You're supposed to be playing the character he's portraying, but in reality you're definitely just playing as a badly animated Vin Diesel in this open world arcade driving sim, with occasional third person shooting missions thrown in for good measure. To be honest, I can take or leave the missions where you're on foot, as the real fun comes when you're behind the wheel. You are the wheelman after all. And it's here that the game flexes its creative muscles. When being pursued, you have the ability to knock your pursuers to the left or right or in front of you with the flick of the right analog stick in the desired direction. Hit them enough times and their cars will flip and explode in a cinematic and ridiculously satisfying way. You can also airjack other vehicles by literally leaping from the vehicle you're in to the roof of another one in order to escape a burning car or to evade the feds on your tail. Driving well and successfully landing jumps increases your focus gauge, allowing you to boost your car's speed, or more importantly, to perform aim shooting whilst driving, and one of these special Cyclone super moves. They both essentially slow down time while the camera zooms in to where you are in the driver's seat and allows you to use your gun, turning the game into a brief shooting gallery experience not far off something like Time Crisis. Targets appear above critical areas of the vehicle, and landing a shot within the target usually has devastating effects. Your ability to be the baddest of getaway drivers is what gets you noticed, and soon enough you'll unlock numerous main and side missions that are dotted all over your map, and you're free to tackle them as and when you please, or just drive around the city at breakneck speeds, performing jumps and generally causing havoc. It's up to you. At times it does feel a lot like Burnout, it's got to be said, and when you're on foot you can't help but compare it to GTA, but unfortunately it lacks the polish and execution that both of those games have in spades. That being said, if you can look past the absolute toilet textures, and if your speakers can handle the tremor-inducing voice talent of Mr. Diesel, then you'll probably have a laugh with this. A few beers in, and it'll probably be a great night. Definitely don't write this one off though.
What do you do, Milo from Miami?
I'm a wheelman.
Nice gimps, Hayabusa. Where's your ball gag?
Okay, and lastly we've got Yaiba Ninja Gaiden Z, or Z, depending on where you're from. And just like with Ace Combat Assault Horizon, Yaiba strays away from the mainline Ninja Gaiden series in almost every way. Gone are the nuanced tight controls and the foreboding atmosphere and story, replacing them with button mashing hack and slash gameplay and borderline grotesque writing and animation. These all sound like negatives, but I really like it, quite a lot actually. The art style is completely different with Yaiba. It instead adopts a more colourful, in-your-face cell shading, with enemies each having their own comic-style intro stings. It's tacky as hell, but I'm totally here for it. The enemy variety and design are plentiful and ridiculous looking in equal measure, but it can get a little stressful in the eyes at times, it's got to be said. Especially when fighting dozens of enemies at once and each of them having their own spectacular death animations, all while debris and explosions are firing off left and right, it can start to feel and look a little messy. The fixed camera angles don't help matters either, but I found I got used to that quite quickly. Some of the bosses and mid-level bosses can be a bit of a pain to put down, especially when dealing with more than one, but a few attempts later and they're all dealt with. And using Yaiba's execution technique on weakened enemies not only grants one of the many execution cinematics, but it also drops a health pickup to keep you in the game. It can get a little repetitive, but it's a short game anyway at around 6 to 7 hours, so that's not too much of an issue. And just like Ace Combat, I can also see why the mega fans hate this, but if you don't care about any of that and just want to play a grotesquely brutal and ridiculously written hack and slash for a few hours, then this is your game. Nothing like its excellent mainline namesakes, but not one that should be ignored either, I don't think. If you completely ignored this one way back when and want something new for the collection, I'd definitely recommend it. Alright guys, well that was 5 underrated classics on the PS3 for my collection there. I'll definitely be covering the system again, but for the next video I'll be talking about some of the hidden gems in my PS4 collection. So subscribe if that's something that might interest you, but for now I'm signing off and ducking out. Take care and see you soon.